This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it. And that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Ryan Glasgow on the show. He is the founder and CEO of Sprig. And before there, he had helped in product management at some pretty successful companies that I'm sure we've all heard of. Weebly, who was acquired by Square, and Verb, who was acquired by Snapchat. And right now at Sprig, they work with high-growth companies such as Figma, Loom, and Dropbox. Anyway, with all that being said, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are in your career and what led you to wanting to found Sprig.
Going all the way to the beginning, I'm originally from the Bay Area and actually born and raised in Santa Clara, which is just next to San Jose, and always grew up, my high school shared a fence with AMD.
Oh, wow.
On the way to school, I drove by the Apple HQ for elementary school. My elementary school was in Cupertino, right near the Apple headquarters. And I'd read the Sunday Times for the Mercury News and read about all the, companies getting funded and founded and really how they rose. My dad also worked in tech here in Silicon Valley. My sisters are part of the .com, boom and bust, working in tech as well. And so even at a young age, my friends were skateboarding. I was skateboarding, but I was building skateboard websites on the side. And so, learned how to code when I was around probably 10 or 11 and buying Java books when I was 12, really digging into technologies and computers. And it was a big part of my childhood. And I got into building websites, SaaS applications for other people. And I was doing the design, the development, all the product management, and the product specifications as just out of an agency that I'd started. And so really learned, as a kid growing up on school, it's how I made, money, is actually building websites for people that I met over the internet. And then I really actually got my professional start when I joined Extrabucks. I was working at a tech startup full time while I was going to UC San Diego. And I was the, very early, first product manager, designer, software engineer. When those companies only have a few people, you have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
And that was when I realized, okay, this is actually probably a career for me. This is something that I'm really excited about and something that, I really enjoyed. And also saw myself, thriving and succeeding in that role. Mm-hmm. And so I went on to help Extrabucks get acquired by Ebates, which was now owned by Rakuten, and then helped 3 other companies pre-product market fit, find product market fit, grow, and ultimately be acquired and have successful acquisitions. And then I joined Weebly as the first product manager, post-product market fit, helped them scale to their exit to Square. And what I noticed looking back at those 5 different experiences for pre-product market fit, one post-product market fit, is really the understanding and the importance of the customer and how if we could deeply understand the customer's needs and pains and problems and what they're looking to do in the world, irrespective of our product, that really led to us having transformative product experiences, really reach our revenue goals by digging into those customer needs. And when I took some time off after, Weebly, thought about the different challenges that I'd experienced, around me, but also myself. And the one that I kept coming back to was how high growth companies don't have a great way to understand their customers at scale. And at Weebly, when I left, there's around 50 million accounts and close to 100 million in revenue. And thinking about what would it look like from first principles to build a company that could, and platform that could help these high growth companies deeply understand their customers. Mm-hmm. And it was very much a challenge of scale, collecting data at scale and analyzing data at scale. And that really became the founding premise for Sprig.
I think that's awesome. And, I just had Tap from AWS on the show. He was talking about how when they come up with new products or new services for AWS, they never start out with an ROI in mind. It's always about what is the customer experience going to be and what is the problem that we're solving for this customer. And I love the way you're talking about how to take that and use that at scale for companies, because it's really easy when you only have one customer or two customers to go and talk to them and figure out, what do you like, what do you don't like, what's the experience like. But when you have, once you start growing and you have hundreds and thousands, it gets very, very difficult really quickly.
Exactly. And those companies pre-product market fit, I was sending them individual emails. And maybe there's only 50 or 100 people using the product. It was pre-launch, often in stealth mode at the time, or very small customer bases. They would sign up, they would try the product for a week. Maybe they didn't come back. I would send them an email. Hey, Ryan, from ExtraBucks, Ryan from Verve, help us understand. And that was just so powerful as on our journey to finding product market fit. Mm-hmm. And when I went out to Weebly, when you have hundreds of thousands of people every month, you can't email, the 3 people that didn't come back that week. There's literally 20,000 people that maybe signed up and are maybe not fully activated on board in the product experience. And it was really that dichotomy that I realized that there's something really missing here in the world that needs to be that needs to come to life, that needs to help other high growth companies, and thought maybe this is something I should tackle. And I did.
Yeah. So when you started that, what was that first, day like when you're like, okay, we're going to start a company. We're going to try to solve this customer experience problem. How do you go about, gathering the information, figuring out what data is important, what's not important, and which, problems you're going to tackle first? Because there's a lot of problems there, that you guys are solving.
There was a moment at Weebly where we were working on a new mobile application, and it was the first time anyone had created a drag and drop website builder on an iOS and on an iOS, iPhone, or iPad. Mm-hmm. And it was something that never been done before. It was a very difficult technical challenge of building this JavaScript bridge with this native Objective-C code, very low level programming that had to be done on the iOS level to make it happen. And we had this really big high profile launch, and it was CNET and all these TechCrunch and all these different publications. I think it was PCMag.com picked it up. And it was all these really big publications. And we just realized that there was an opportunity for us to get more feedback from all the people that were using this product from day one, and realize that, hey, we're getting tens of thousands of people trying this product experience. We need to figure out exactly what they think as they're trying this mobile app for the first time. And so I installed a lightweight in-product survey in the mobile app after they tried the editor for the first time, and asked, how would you rate the editing experience on the iPhone or iPad? And I hooked it up to a spreadsheet, and it gave the team working on this mobile application, myself included, just thousands and thousands of rich pieces of feedback as people were using this product for the first time. And it became so powerful for the roadmap and what we built, for that product for the months and years afterward, that when I left and realized that there was something really interesting there, and there was a lot of smaller players doing something similar, but no one had really built robust, sophisticated tooling for these high growth companies. And that's something that, when I left Weebly, thought about, taking some time off. I was doing some traveling. The other founders, the other product managers who also had those same questions that I had. And the more that I talked to other founders and product managers about the challenges that they were having, it was very much this qualitative data piece, this why at scale. Mm-hmm. And the rise of quantitative behavioral data has really driven this question around why are users doing X or why are users doing Y? And when I put those two together, it really dawned on me that I should start a company around this and help other companies answer these questions that are currently unresolved or being resolved in very cumbersome, challenging ways.
Yeah. So as you're trying to, figure out
what parts work, what parts don't, get the feedback from the user, with all different types of, methods. I know you guys do surveys and replays and other things that are going on that are figuring out where the customer, experience is kind of flowing. How much of that do you tie to figuring out who the customer actually is? Because I know some people build products and they think they know who the customer is, but it turns out that it's being used by someone different in a totally different way than what was anticipated at the beginning. Do you guys ever find anything like that that's kind of eye-opening to the your customer?
I mean, for us, as a company in this space, we deeply understand our customers. We spend a lot of time with them. We have a really strong feedback loop. One thing, though, that we focus on ourselves and often will educate our customers to do is to think about segmentation. And a lot of people, when they do, user research or gather user feedback, they think, hey, anyone using my product, I want to understand what they think. And, even here at Sprig, we have so many different roles, so many different company sizes, have started to really focus on and really, again, educate about not even segmentation, but hyper-segmentation, and thinking about all of the people using your products. Let's really dig in deep and look at a very specific group and define that as your ideal customer profile. And it could be the firmographic, psychographic, demographic. There's so many different ways to segment your user base, but look at the ones that, are going to drive the revenue, are going to drive the business, have the strongest product market fit, and really carve out their feedback, their conversations, and look at those as your signal and treat, in many cases, the other ones as noise. It could be distracting. It could take you in the wrong direction. And so at Sprig, we've built in, and this is actually very new, we just got a patent on this, actually, because it had never been done before, is the ability to do in-product surveys around specific events and specific attributes. And so a lot of our customers will pass their customer user attribute data, attach it to a visitor profile. And then with Sprig, you can actually target and say, people of a certain role, or people of a certain company, or people that pay us a certain amount, we run our in-product surveys for this specific group. Something that we brought to market, something that we heavily use ourselves. And it's something that allows us as a company to either target a broader group, but then filter on just that specific group, or in many cases, just target that specific group to get the insights that we're looking for from that ideal customer profile. And I think that's where the magic happens in product management and building companies, is really talking to the right people, and not necessarily just at the right time or the right questions. I think the right people is what a lot of people miss, and something that we do at Sprig quite often.
So when you get into segmentation and hyper segmentation and finding that those right people that you're mentioning, how do we know who those right people are to help us to distinguish the noise from the actual signal that, like you were talking about? Because when I look at, let's say, my audience here, I could be looking at 100,000 people, and which 10,000 am I interested in that are the technical leaders that are actually going to listen to episode after episode and aren't just here for the one person that they know that's coming on the show, or the company that they've heard of that they're going to click on that one download, or the one with the Navy SEAL that wrote a book that they're interested in, or whatever it is. How do we know who is the everyday listener? How do we find that out from our products?
So one thing that we do in our sign-up flow is we ask the data that we need, and then we attach that to the visitor profile in Sprig when we use Sprig ourselves. And so we'll ask your role, your company size. We also look at, we ask your user base size as well. And that's all attached to that visitor record that's then used for segmentation and targeting. And so, the other type of data, though, is the event data. I think in your case, looking at people that do listen on a regular basis, sending that, really looking at the data of who is listening, right, again and again and again and again, and say, what do you want to hear next on the podcast? And really focusing on those folks. If you want to think about having those power users and really building this relationship with power users, and I think in this market environment where we're all really focused on narrowing our focus, I don't know that many companies are, folks looking to widen their focus right now. Right. It's just a low efficient way to grow right now. The way you get efficiency is narrowing that focus. and really focusing on those people that do listen to the podcast again and again and again. What do you want to hear next? What topics are interesting to you? What episodes in the past 6 months have been most insightful for you? What questions do you have for our next guest? Who's going to be on the show on Sunday? And just really, again, carving out with that specific group of people that are getting the most value out of the podcast is going to lead to a more sustained, and in your case, listener podcast fit.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to put it. And it gets back to, what was that article that I read like a decade ago? I think it was like 1,000 True Fans or something like that, where you wanted to find who those people were. And I guess if you're launching a new product, maybe you're building an app that a new, everything nowadays has some type of AI built into it, but you're building something that's going to be targeting a certain market. How do you find out? You're finding out who those people are from the beginning. I guess what you're saying is we need to have something early on in the process to identify the pieces of data that are necessary to discover those along the way. I mean, maybe putting something like Sprig into your product early on instead of waiting till later to try to capture that information.
Yeah, really understanding who they are from the very beginning is very critical. Building that relationship, understanding the problems, the needs, the goals, the desires, the fears, the concerns, really digging into the whole person of that specific group. And then looking at the downstream data. So not only is it asking them, would you be very disappointed if this product no longer existed, the classic product market fit question, but it could be they try a new product. Does this product meet your needs? Yes or no? Okay, no. Why not? Help us understand why. And really focusing on those, in your case, power listeners, in our case, power users, customers, but then looking at the revenue data to see, can we backtest this? We have a hypothesis, or we're confident that our ideal customer profile is this set of attributes. We're going to focus here for the people that are just getting started with Sprig. But 6 to 12 months from now, are they expanding in their contracts? Are they growing? Are they renewing the Sprig? I think that's the key part, is that someone could wave their hand and say, hey, yeah, love the podcast. I'm going to listen to the next 20 episodes, but then maybe never come back. And so using the data to kind of trust and verify in that case to see, are they actually coming back? And maybe they're not. Maybe you see like a different group that could help you recalibrate, adjust, and rethink about who those 1,000 fans are for your product, for your podcast, whatever it is that you're building.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let me switch gears a little bit and ask you a little bit about the starting of the company. And when you created this and you're building a team, because you can't do anything by yourself, you got to have a team, right? What is it that you go about looking for as a leader to building that first team?
Yeah. So in the first team, like the first 10 hires, how would you define that?
Yeah. First 10 hires is a great starting point.
Yeah. Really early on, focused very much on generalists and folks that had that proven early stage experience. They had come from other companies. They had seen what an early stage startup looks like. Ideally, they had some successes as an early stage, company. And then I think in a lot of one of our values is to never settle. And so we were extremely particular, where there was no settling on any of the early hires, which is very painful. It's very hard to hire early hires, notoriously difficult to hire, folks when no one's heard of you and you haven't launched yet, and there's all risk, right?
Right.
Small chances of reward, but really digging in and seeing who's here for the mission, who's here to solve a problem, who's here to build an iconic company, and not someone who's interested in the reward, the upside, joining a company that you think about a group project. Who wants to kind of put the team on their back? Who wants to carry, the workload? Who's willing to roll up their sleeves and do really anything, in those moments of needing to get something done? And it's something that we actually just formalized after a few years. There was this value of the early team that they're always willing to help someone else out, regardless of what hour of the day it was, regardless of how much they were facing themselves. So we just adopted a value called win as a team. And something that a lot of folks came into Sprig and said, hey, really unique here. I ask a Slack question, someone immediately responds, they'll jump on a call, they'll help me get through something. And I think that early mentality of those first 10 hires that win as a team mentality was something that maybe wasn't fully intentional, at least for me, but something that has been fully manifested here at Sprig. And I think that was from those early 10 hires, and not something maybe I was explicitly looking for, but ended up implicitly bringing people on that really embody that. And it's been a core part of our culture even to today.
No, I think that's really good. And, you find that you'll see like a company with a good culture, they have that mentality of helping each other out and being responsive. And when you look at a team with a poor culture, you'll see them post something on Slack and it just sits there, for days even. And, or somebody will post right below that and not even answer the person's question or just acknowledge them at all. And, it's so hurtful for that person that posted that, But how much of that result that you're seeing is because of the passion for, the product and the company
And
the vision, I guess.
Yeah. And part of my goal as a leader is to really realize that, we're all the same sport. It's like a sports team.
Yeah.
I'm a Warriors fan. We're all the same team. We all have the same goal. We want to win the championship. Here at Sprig, we have our own goal to be the number one player in our category. And, I think keeping the team focused on our mission, our purpose, our vision, thinking about us against the competition. We're not each other's enemies. We've got, someone else, these other companies in the world that we're competing against, that we want to win, that we want to beat. And I think keeping that perspective is really powerful, and realizing that, again, the power of having a team. And that's why I think individual sports are particularly difficult, golf and tennis and things like that. You see golfers melt down on the fairway, or you see tennis players, having these mental health coaches and psychologists, helping with their mindsets because they can't pass the ball. There's no one else to, hand the ball off to or pass to. And I think with business, it's very similar, that maybe you're going through something, maybe you've got a little bit on your plate, you can pass the ball. Your team can help you out. If you're having a rough time with your shooting, pass someone else, they make the shot. And so I think here at Sprig, we often think about how even in the earliest days, we can all rally together and look at each customer as a specific near-term goal, bringing on each customer, bringing on each account, renewing each account, expanding each account, bringing each new feature to life, launching and announcing each feature as one of those steps towards that long-term, goal here at Sprig. And ultimately, when we look back, want to say, hey, those moments of helping each other out got us to where we are today. We're now the number one player. And that's because of that mentality of winning as a team.
I think that's really good. How do you set those small milestones, if you will, along the way? And do you celebrate those as you go through them to kind of encourage people and keep them going? Or is it more like, okay, we're not there yet, we've got to keep pushing? What's the mindset like there?
I do think it is really important to acknowledge and appreciate, and something that is not maybe natural for me to give folks, pat on the back or say, great job. I'm a perfectionist. For me, always things could have always been done a little bit differently, or, we could have always be a little further. That's just my mentality of never settle, always thinking, we got to get further. We got to go faster. We got to go bigger. It is, though, so critical for folks on the journey to really realize that, you are having those moments, you are having those celebrations. And I think there have been some expansions and customers that we have been particularly excited about, ones that are more notable, ones that are more high profile. And we do bring those in. We do have those moments, across the company. And it's not one specific person that's really getting the acknowledgement of the win. It is really, we do try to make all of the wins company wins and make it clear that we are all on the same team. And it's, not one particular one whose success that is. It is really Sprig as a whole that is having that victory. Yeah. And I think that mindset of shared wins, but also shared responsibilities when we fall short, really helps create that mentality of winning as a team. And I won't say losing as a team, but perhaps having setbacks as a team, and realizing that, we're all collectively responsible for the successes. I'm always going to be primarily responsible for any shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also going to hold the broader team and company accountable, if we do have some of those shortcomings along the way.
Yeah, I think accountability is extremely important, but I also love what you're talking about how everybody is celebrated in success. And I go back to the story of it was a janitor at NASA, back in the 60s, and they asked him when he was sweeping the floor, so what do you do at NASA? And he says, I help put man on the moon. He's not talking about, yes, you're responsible for keeping the floors clean, but the greater goal is that you put the man on the moon. And I think that's a kind of a cool way to keep people engaged and bought into the vision of the company, no matter what their role is.
Exactly. And I think that's a great example of a shared mission all the way down to someone who's cleaning the office, for others. And that individual has a responsibility and shared goal just as much as everybody else at NASA.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what your early successes were. Do you have any stories of like that one moment where you felt like, oh my gosh, we're actually gonna do this, that we're succeeding, we're making this vision come true? What was that first one like?
There were certainly some early customers that really saw the vision of Sprig and really bought into what we were doing. And I think for any company, you can talk, Dylan Field is one of our investors from Figma. You can talk to, Akshay from Notion, co-founder of Notion, also one of our investors. I think any company is there today because someone at a company took a risk on them and said, you know what? They say no one gets fired for buying IBM, right? If you buy like the industry leader, the top product,
right?
You did no wrong. That's the incumbent. But every company exists, and Figma's talked a lot about this, is that Coda was their first customer, and Coda gave them a shot, and that was, a huge risk for their design team at the time to try a new tool and take this on. It was very buggy. And I think for Sprig, there were some early moments for us that, we had customers, Square, who I had some connection to through the acquisition. There was also some Dropbox was also someone who came in really early, Coinbase, another one, and Robinhood.
Oh, yeah.
And so those four were probably the larger, higher profile companies. And that's really what we were focused on, is working on companies like that. We had a lot of other smaller companies, but that founding premise and goal for the company was more the high growth and at scale. And so when we were able to bring on these high growth and at scale tech companies, that's really the aha. That was really the moment of, okay, these high profile companies, they're quickly growing, they're at scale, and we're a year in, we're 18 months in, we're 24 months into our journey, building something. They get our vision. They're going to take a bet on our product. They're going to come on early as pioneers, partnering with us to build this product. And they got the best support. They got the product built exactly for their needs. So it's very much, making sure that it was shared success. But seeing some of those early wins of bringing on those early customers, seeing us go live in their products and playing a small part of their successes, I think was something where you start to realize one by one that you're making progress towards what you wanted to do. I think the funding rounds were helpful perspective as well. We did a seed round with first round capital. They're considered the number one seed stage capital investor. They did the seed round of Uber and Square and Roblox and Notion. And so when you have the same seed round do your seed round, you're okay, this is, not a fluke. They see a lot of really great companies and they want to lead our seed round. Excel was exciting. Again, from being from the Bay Area, someone I always read about in the papers growing up as one of those iconic Silicon Valley investors with, extensive heritage. And so they led our Series A. And that was also one where you realize that there is something really magical here. Mm-hmm. There's something that you're doing that maybe they hadn't seen in other companies. They're seeing some early success that, is validating for the direction and the approach. And so I think both the customers primarily, but also starting to see the investor interest and traction was also something that was very motivating for me, because I think in the early days, you don't always realize maybe what you have Just because the grind day in and day out, and every day is its own journey. And so when you kind of step back, you bring on a great customer, you bring on a great investor, it always helps bring that perspective of where you're at on your journey.
Yeah, I think it's great to always look back and see where you came from, because it is hard when you're looking day to day and you're looking at that next milestone and that next goal. You're not looking back behind you to see how far you've come. And every now and then you take just stop and look back and say, oh my gosh, we're way bigger than we used to be. We actually have a product now. We actually have. I remember the first time I built a app for the iPhone and had something out there. I was like so excited that it was in the App Store and getting tens of downloads. And then after you have iterations and iterations, you look back like, oh my gosh, we've had 1 million downloads. I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize how far we've come because I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on what's next. And every now and then you need to go back and just celebrate that. I think that's really cool.
Absolutely. And I think that's where you do need to acknowledge the team. A lot of folks can't go year in, year out with no recognition, no celebrations, no accomplishments recognized. And so, started to now make that concerted effort from my side and also leadership team to ensure that we are celebrating. Even now, we bring on an exciting company. We brought on Peloton and PayPal and Figma, just to name a few recently. But you do need to celebrate those moments and not start to take any of that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I struggle with too, is to know when to celebrate. So I've surrounded myself with good people that can kind of encourage me and say, hey, it's time to, have bring in pizza. Let's celebrate this thing. Let's acknowledge, somebody's success. Like, oh yeah, I forgot about that, because I keep focusing on that next thing. So it is a challenge for me as well. So what's next for Sprig?
It's been a really exciting time for us because we, since the beginning, the first person to join me actually was the head of AI. And so we've been really early 2019, very focused on building large-scale data analysis as well as large-scale data collection. We've done some incredible work in the field of large-scale data collection. We just had a customer launch a survey. They got 50,000 responses in less than a day, for example. But the interesting thing is where AI is going right now and the technology that's emerging has been really exciting. And there's so many different applications of artificial intelligence that we'd always wanted to do that we haven't really had a chance to apply and it wasn't even called AI when we were doing it. It was called ML, machine learning.
Machine learning, yeah.
It wasn't considered intelligent. It was truly just considered a machine has learned from a data set, where now they, categorically call it artificial intelligence because it is considered intelligent. And it's
so back then we always thought of machine learning as kind of what AI is now, and I always thought of AI as like what's in the Terminator. We're just becoming sentient. Exactly. But I guess they rebranded it.
Exactly. And if you called it AI in 2019, 2020, you got a little smack on the hand, and everyone say, "Hey, that's not AI."
Yeah.
That you're just it's just machine learning. And so it's exciting just to see with the models, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, all the open source models like Llama, and see that we're now having this kind of greenfield in technology of what's possible. It's like the iPhone App Store just came out and everyone's trying different things. It's gold rush and new ideas and applications. And there's a lot of, things that are not working out. Candidly with AI, there's low retention for a lot of the startups out there who are a lot of tire kickers that maybe aren't coming back. But there are those breakthroughs and there are those really interesting technologies. And this year we launched the ability to ingest your entire survey data into an LLM and ask questions about your data, which is really cool. So you can ask, hey, what should I build next based on this data? What are the correlations between question 1 and question 2? How would you summarize the results from this entire survey? And you no longer have to read all those responses. Something that we're going to be launching later this year is a home feed. And the home feed is actually going to be like a news feed, a Facebook news feed or Instagram news feed, but really pulling apart themes and insights and correlations and opportunities real time from your product experience. And so, it's kind of the product I wish I had in my past roles. I log in and I get this news feed. Here are all these really interesting ideas, and here's exactly what's working or what's breaking from.
Now it's almost like it's writing your roadmap for you a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Just throwing ideas at you as you log in. And next year, I want to even think bigger about AI and think about the different ways to, so we've got a few things that we're cooking in the oven. But we just have this really great data set that all of our customers are collecting the data with Sprig. The AI piece, I think, is where we're, really, really excited for next year to continue to innovate, to try new things, to see where AI is successful, where it struggles, and really continue to innovate in that area. And so it's going to be a big bet next year for us. Generally AI, right now the focus is on generative AI. You're generating text.
Right.
We're doing it in the opposite way of synthesizing data. And
and honestly, I use it in that same, fashion. I'll use, ChatGPT a lot of times just to summarize things for me and, and ask questions about like an article. I'll paste a link in there and ask questions about it. So I don't have, like, even if I don't have very good reading comprehension, honestly. I'll read something and I'll be like, I get bored about halfway through and I forgot what I read and I have to go back and try to read it again. But if I can get it like summarized and I can ask questions about what I just read, it helps me out a lot, and I think that's my use case for it. It's not to generate new content. It's more or less to summarize and understand better what's there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And how to incorporate, for example, that into an existing product. Mm-hmm. I think that's where there's a lot of innovation happening. Experimentation, testing, and the field of product management. A lot of people are questioning the chat design pattern, whether that's the right design pattern.
I think you're right too. I think you have to do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I use it for. I don't have a chat with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, we launched that, we're taking a hard look at that. We're seeing really great success, but I think the big question in AI is that should we create new design patterns and principles or should we use existing ones? I kind of talked about the newsfeed as one. That's an existing design pattern that's existed, in social media for a while, but we're using AI to generate all the content, where the chat one is something that's fairly new, chatting with AI that has not been done. Chatting with computers is something that we haven't done, until recently. And so I think that whole area of experimentation has been really exciting and something that we've been thinking a lot about and have a team dedicated to that. So next year, more to come.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. Definitely want to learn more about that when it does come. This has been great, Ryan. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. How can people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing and stay in touch so that they're on top of these new products, and innovations that are coming out of Sprig?
Like I mentioned, we primarily work with companies that are quickly growing and already at scale. Mm-hmm. And so if you're working at a post-product market fit company or you're, founder post-product market fit company, we'd love to hear from you. We do have I think we have an offer available. So sprig.com/get started, all one word. And so that will allow anyone to, talk to our team and we'll get you set up that white glove treatment, hear about your goals for 2024, what your challenges are, get you the data that you're looking for, that qualitative data set. We also, though, like to work with companies as early as possible when they're just getting started. Mm-hmm. So we also have a free plan so you can run some end product surveys. We just launched Session Replay earlier this year as well. And you can try our AI capabilities to analyze both of those data sets. So sprig.com/sign up. But I also, very active on Twitter, LinkedIn, so /Ryan Glasgow on either of those platforms. So if there's anything you want to ask about, dig in a little bit further, love to hear from you. DMs are open.
Awesome. And I'll link that in the show notes too at geekleader.com so people can click through and find you there. Again, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Love the conversation.
All right, John. Thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to, click on their links, and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. And make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.